Hello everyone and welcome back to the neighborhood. Today we're looking at a budget attached wire IEM coming in at around $20 in the form of the Moondrop Chew. It can't be any good, can it? Let's get into it. So to start, let's briefly address the build. The shell here is an all-metal, black, and with a graphic, and relatively small, somewhere in between the size of Moondrop's own S.S.R. and Aria. The kicker here is that the cable is attached. The shell fits nicely and has a decent heft to its size without being too heavy, but I'm not really sure why they used an attached cable here. In my opinion, without its included rubber ear hooks, it's kind of too large for an attached cable and it dangles awkwardly at the end of it. The ear hooks help, but I'm still not a fan of this type of design, and I think that Moondrop should have made a 2-pin detachable cable version of this IEM as well, at least for like another $5 or so. And let me note that because of the angle of the wire coming off the IEM, these can only be worn in an over-ear fashion, so keep that in mind. The wire itself is nice enough, not too thick or too thin, and it's encased in a rubberized sheath, but I haven't been able to get it to fully straighten out since it arrived. I'm not sure if this could relax with use over time, however. There's also a large rubberized Y-split without a chin cinch and with Moondrop's emblem on it that I excused on the quirks given its price, and I'll mostly do that again here with the Chew. But I would have liked an integrated slider or for it to be smaller, as this thing is larger than the 3.5mm jack at the end of the cable. There's both an integrated mic version of these and a without mic variant. Shinsen Audio sent me the version without the mic. However, with a cheaper integrated cable IEM like this one, I'd be more willing to risk an imbalance or other wiring issues in order to have a microphone for voice calls. In any case, I wasn't able to test the microphone because this version wasn't sent to the channel. The included pouch is an envelope made of felt with a snap-on metal style fastener. It's barely big enough to house the IEMs, and it does so awkwardly. In addition to being too small, it's also overly stiff in its construction. I think that Moondrop should have considered including a case similar to the one that comes with the Aria, even if it were to cost the consumer more money. My hope is that one day Moondrop will release a Pro or Special Edition version of this set that will include a better, detachable cable and a nice case. Say something like they did with the Stardust. Moondrop's own new spring ear tips also come with this set, and this is a high value proposition given that this IEM only cost around $20 and a set of spring ear tips cost around $13 at the time of this review. These tips are mostly comfortable, at least at first, but their bore is also rather stiff, and its outer rim does wear on the inside of my ear canal over the course of a day. You should also note that Moondrop's large spring ear tip is the size of many medium ear tips from other companies, so these definitely run on the small side. If you have larger ear holes, the tips that come with this set might not fit you, as only a set of small, medium, and large are included in the box. Still, the sound here is unbelievable for the cost. The Chew seriously keeps up with other sets that cost as much as $100. Compared to Moondrop's own Aria, the presentation here is different in that it's more even and less V-shaped, less relaxed and less wide, but clarity, detail, separation, and resolution are strikingly similar, if not better executed. Just know that if you're looking for soundstage with the Chew, you're not really going to get it. The Chew is more of an intimate presentation, even if it has decent depth to its image. Another thing to know about the Chew is that its mids and early treble are unnaturally forward and over-accentuated on occasion on some recordings, but I never really found the Chew to be shouty in its manner. Instead, I just found it to be sort of off in comparison to what I normally would expect to hear from the track. For example, some guitar riffs were more in the listener's face and highlighted to a greater extent than they usually were. The song, Hanging by a Moment by Lifehouse, depicts this phenomenon when played back on the Chew quite strikingly. Because of such an occurrence, the Chew does come across as slightly hot to my ears. Still, audiophiles that look for a forward vocal character will love the Chew, and vocals within the mid-range are hauntingly well done. Treble extension and air quality aren't really anything to write home about, but again, it keeps up with most standouts below $100. One reviewer already referred to the Chew as slightly metallic in its timbre, but I think that this is a misunderstanding, an inaccurate description, and a definite reach. Instead, I think what he is trying to account for is that the Chew's transients are a bit quick in their attack and a bit sharp in their decay. So rest assured, there really isn't any metallic tinge here to observe. General timbre of the Chew is neutral-ish, but leaning slightly warm. Note weight is mostly full-bodied and warmed throughout by its rather lush bottom end. Bass note character is mostly even throughout and taut in its entirety, but also mildly diffuse at the same time. Yet, unlike many budget offerings, the Chew is not a bass cannon. Overall, I describe the Chew's bass as musical in nature and robust enough. It's sufficiently dynamic and adequately vigorous to project almost any type of genre well. I still respect the reference quality of the S.S.R's bass response, but there's definitely a bit more meat on the bone here with the Chew, and as a result I think the Chew will unquestionably be a bit more of a crowd pleaser in comparison. Other comparisons to consider should consist of the e.d.c Sound Waist Drum and the Astrotech Vesna. The Waist Drum comes in at a tad more expensive, around $35, while the Vesna is priced likewise to the Chew at around $20. To my ear, the Waist Drum sounds remarkably similar to the Chew in that it's a slightly neutral-ish, warm-leaning in-ear monitor, but the Waist Drum is also not as forward in its mid-range and early treble, much larger in its stage width, has additional top-end treble emphasis, and might be slightly less detailed but more hearty in its bottom end. The Waist Drum is also uniquely open back in its construction and comes with a detachable cable. Furthermore, it's ironic that the Waist Drum looks like the discontinued Moondrop spaceship, the IM that the Chew is replacing in Moondrop's lineup. In contrast, the Astrotech Vesna has the most neutral timbre between the three, even if there is some mild dryness here or there to be aware of. The Vesna is also bass light and thinner in its note weight in comparison to the Chew. With that said, the Vesna can still surprise with its low-end presence depending upon the track, as it sometimes really digs deep when called upon to do so, even if it's not consistently thumpy or rumbly for its listener. Like the Waist Drum, the Vesna also stages wider and has additional treble, but in comparison may seem top-end heavy to some. Like the Chew, the Vesna is a well-thought-out, non-detachable cable IM, but the Vesna has a chin slider, is designed to be worn down-ear rather than over-ear, and requires the purchase of additional tips, as the stock tips don't really do this one any form of justice. Frostle the Wizard turned me on to using Ludo tips with these, and these are a game changer for this IM for sure. I had originally passed this IM off as a waste of time prior to this discovery. And although all three of these IMs rely on a single dynamic driver, the driver in the Vesna might also be considered of a higher quality to some, at least on paper, as it's constructed of an LCP, like the Tanshim Hana, Moondrop Aria, Ten Hi-Fi T3 Plus, and other more expensive sets. So the Moondrop Chew has been a disruptor of an IM on the audiophile scene since its release. It essentially raises the bar in sound at its price, but e.d.c Sound and Astrotech have also heeded the call, stepping up their game in the budget space as well. With IMs such as these lurking around, at their affordable price, it's simply a great time for an audiophile to be alive and able to listen. And before I go, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Also consider following the neighborhood at all its other access locations, including Twitter, Instagram, www.intoitreviews.com, or join the Discord. There's also the Patreon. The Patreon is only $1.50 a month, and it gets you access to early scripts that I use to write reviews. In any case, I appreciate all my viewers and thank you for tuning in. And with that, I'm out for now.